Welcome to KidLit Catalyst. Today's guests are Sarah, Aronson, and Donna Bowman.
What is your book about in 10 words or less? If you can't tell me, that tells me something. Then why are you writing this book? What does it mean to you? What do you want to talk about with young readers? That discourse is where theme lies. And there's usually something there before the story starts. That why, that juice, that engine is what will allow you to go back to the manuscript over and over again because it's something you care about.
You have a lot in common, not only KidLit, but your MFAs in writing and children and young adults for Vermont College of Fine Arts, both in common. Let's go over what you have common and what's different, shall we? Let's dive in. Donna Bowman comes to us from Central Texas, and she's a speaker, writer's coach, author of award-winning books from young readers, including Step Right Up, How Doc and Jim Key Taught the World About Kindness, illustrations by Daniel Mentor, Abraham Lincoln's Dueling Words, illustrated by S.D. Schindler, and King of the Tightrope, when the great London ruled Nigeria. I would say Nigeria because I just got back from Africa. Ignore me. It's Niagara. Way more watery. Illustrated by Adam Gustafson. And of course, that Master of Fine Arts. And she lives now, as we said, in Central Texas. And Sarah Aronson started her writing career on a dare. She began writing for kids and teens when someone in an exercise class dared her to try. So watch what you come away with from exercise classes. Since then, she also earned that MFA we talked about, and her published works include, both for children and teens, Head Case, Beyond Lucky and Believe, a Young MG series, The Wish List, as well as Just Like Rube Goldberg by Beach Lane Books, illustrated by Robert Newbecker, and forthcoming books include Brand New Bubby and a picture book biography by Bella Abzug. Hopefully I said this right. Tell me how to say it. Abzug? Is that correct?
Bella Abzug.
Perfect. And Battling Bella by Hopkins Creek, Boyds, Mills, and Kane. And with that, we are so excited to dive in today on KidLit Catalyst.
Yeah.
Welcome. So glad to have you here.
You know what all that means. It just means Sarah and I both have degrees in book nerddom.
Hey, that's the best.
Nothing
We're certified.
We like books.
We like books a little bit. Yeah.
Hooray,
And that's
hooray.
kind of why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're all here.
We have some common brain here that two of you share an illustrator. Did you know that?
Yes.
You do? Deb, you want to tell her?
Well, Robert Newbecker was the illustrator for one of my books, which is Monsters on Machines. And Andrea was my editor. She also worked on at least one or two of the Dino books. So
One of my favorite things to tell kids is that I've never spoken to Robert Newbecker, not even once.
It doesn't blow their minds. I know. Yeah.
I know.
They guess 10,000 sometimes. It must have been 10,000 conversations. Nope. It's zero.
Yeah. And I'm trying
Donna, have you met all of your illustrators?
Not a one.
Not a one.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. So Robert and I did email back and forth some, but I don't think I've never met him in person. Now, Howard Fine, I did meet in person because I think I was going to the SCBWI conference in New York, and I said, I'm going to be celebrating my birthday while I'm there. And he said, well, asked me when my birthday was. I said February 7th. He said, mine's the 6th. Let's go celebrate. So we did meet in person, and we did do things like he would call me or text and say, okay, I can't figure out what to put on this page. And so we would brainstorm some things.
Wow.
That's
Nice.
cool.
How fun.
But we already had done, 3 books. So that makes a difference.
It's nice to have that relationship. Yeah. Paul Schmidt and I were friends before that worked out. And so, we got to collaborate on the process too. A little bit behind the editor's back, but
Yeah.
but we had a lot of fun doing it.
The closest I've come is just emailing illustrators and then sending them a lot of material to help them out. But I was always very careful to say, I'm not going to be one of those helicopter authors, but I have stuff that will
Exactly.
help you.
It's a little
That's
tougher with nonfiction, isn't it?
Yes,
Because
yes.
you've done this research for years and years, and you just want to give it all to them.
And it's got to be accurate when it shows up in the book.
Yes. Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
some cases, it's like that with fiction too. You know, like when I did Dino Sailors, and I got I was just packing to go to Minnesota, where I'm from, and I threw the preliminary sketches in and got there. My sister looked at them, and there's like this bullet train at the end of it, and she said, "Oh, Deb, you got to have them change that train, because how are you going to do a sequel?" And it's because it's like they see a train, and after they're on this ship, after they're on a boat. And so, that's how it ended up with a steam train. So then I did the research, and I found photos and sent them off to the editor and and Howard, and that was how that happened.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. With Brand New Bubby, there are 2 spreads in the book where I've said, let the illustrator go at it, and then I'll add the words later.
That's
so fun.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
So
clever.
that we're reciprocating that relationship. And I didn't want to over describe what I think is going to happen in that kitchen. I want to see what she wants to do. And then I'll add the dialogue at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited
in
about it.
my most recent project was a little bit similar in that the illustrator got the words and then did the art. And when I saw the art, I was just like, oh, I have to change the words, because now I see how to make it better, take his idea and take it one step further. And so then I'm like, can I please revise? And so they let me revise to fit his artwork, which was really fun. So that was I've never talked to him, but we had this other kind of exchange, which was fun.
Yeah. I've done that a couple times too. It's like the Dino Sailors at one point, with the train, they were full of soot, and it's in the dialogue. I mean, was in the words, but it didn't show it in the picture, so I changed it. And Robert Newbecker did this amazing monster house, but it wasn't like I was picturing, like the old haunted house kind of thing. I said, don't make him change that house. I'll change the words.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So fun.
Well, I brought you ladies here not to talk about illustration, but to talk about theme.
Theme has been coming up for us lately.
It has been coming up again and again, and it's like every time it's just like, oh, I can't wait to have them on here and pick their brains about this, because I know both of you have given it a lot of thought and a lot of study and have a lot of nerdy background in it.
Yep.
So in lieu of getting an MFA, we brought you here to teach us instead. I think that'll be a lot easier, hopefully.
Well, great. How do you want to do this?
There'll be quizzes later.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yes.
We're ready.
We'll do our packets after the talk. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Where do you start with theme? Do you start with a theme in mind, like, I have to address this issue, how am I going to do it? Or does it evolve as you're working on a project, like with the Phil Campbell project? Are you kind of arriving on the theme as you dig into it? Does it depend on the topic? Have you done it, kind of first and last, chicken and egg? How do you do it? How do you approach theme?
Sarah, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm going to say all of the above.
That's what I figured.
So one of the things, I just started a new class. And the first question I ask my students, I do a lot of side writing in my classes. And I push all the writers to get away from the manuscript, away from those words that feel very important and set, and get into the why. And so my first questions are to speak to theme. One is, What is your book about in 10 words or less? I love to name that tune. Just, I love that concept. But what is your book about in 10 words or less? If you can't tell me, that tells me something. Then why are you writing this book? What does it mean to you? What do you want to talk about with young readers? That discourse is where theme lies. And there's usually something there. Before the story starts, I have lots of ideas about this. I'm going to let Donna talk a little bit first. But that why, that juice, that engine is what will allow you to go back to the manuscript over and over again because it's something you care about. I mean, if it's not something you care about, why are you writing the book? So that why is what I want to tap into. And of course, that doesn't give you license to be didactic, but you should know what you actually when it's all done, what you want to talk about with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, to everything Sarah just said. It might be helpful to think about how we define theme. And I know in every class, in every conference, in every workshop, you're going to hear it referred to in different terms. So, it's the big idea, it's the takeaway, it's the so what, it's the emotional core, it's the echo when you finish a book, it's the universal human truth, right? Every character, fiction or nonfiction, is on a journey, whether they realize it or not. And by the end of our story, by the end of our narrative, they've done something notable, or they've reached a goal, or they've learned a lesson, or they've suddenly landed on a path they didn't know they needed to be on. And that journey involved a lot of character traits that they had to dive into, right? So that's where that universal human truth comes in. Every book, every narrative should be able to be easily defined by those things, that emotional truth. Step Right Up is a book about the power of kindness. Abraham Lincoln's Dueling Words, one of my other picture book biographies, is about humility and about how no one's perfect, but everyone can do something that makes a difference. King of the Tightrope is about what can be imagined can be achieved. Those are themes. And every story has more than one theme, but there's usually one primary theme. So like Sarah, when I'm teaching my classes, I have a topic exploration form that I give my students that they have to fill out. And it's really tapping into what interested them about the subject they're writing about, because the theme guaranteed is connected to that. Because I teach a lot of nonfiction subjects, so it's a little bit easier than if you're creating the character, right? But even with fiction, we go into a story with this idea. It's completely tied to our characters. They're going to do something, they're going to face something, and they have to tap into something internal to achieve, overcome, and succeed in whatever it is. That's the theme. Whatever those character traits are connects to it, and that is theme. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's how I sort of define theme. And I can tell you that in every book, every manuscript that I've tackled that didn't sell, it's because the theme did not come through strongly enough, and I didn't realize it at the time. So to go back to the original question, do I know the theme when I begin? Sometimes, because again, there's a reason I was attracted to a subject. Sometimes I don't really realize it until I'm in the middle of it, or even when I've finished a manuscript and I think, oh, that's a story about humility. But it's in my head, it's in my heart when I'm writing. So if I've done my job well, it comes through organically.
I love that you both mentioned the why,
Yeah.
because one thing I've learned through this career is that when I'm stuck, when I'm experiencing writer's block, if that's a thing, I'm not sure. But when I'm feeling stuck and I don't know where to go and the manuscript just isn't working, it's because I don't know why. I don't know why it matters to me, right? And I don't know what I'm trying to say. And yes, I can be reporting on this nonfiction topic and doing an adequate, competent job, and it can be a lovely encyclopedia entry. But if I don't know why it matters to me, I can't get across why it should matter to anyone else, right?
Exactly.
A lot of that side writing that you talked about, Sarah, is is me just trying to figure out, why do I care? What is it about this topic that has me so completely fascinated that I can't let go, that I can't walk away? And that can
Right.
be, surprisingly enough, that should be obvious. It should be right in front of our faces, but it can be really hard to figure out sometimes. I mean, it is for me anyway.
Well, I think that we are often that the difference between engaging in the process, the writing for writing's sake, for discovery, for internal reflection, is different from, oh, I think this is an idea that might sell. When I go to product, I'm dead on arrival. When I am engaging in the why and in the what am I holding back? And why do I feel so strongly? And what are my obsessions? And that intersection between me and my obsessions, and if I'm writing nonfiction, my subject and what their life was about. Somewhere along the line, my voice is going to intersect with that person. And when I find that, then I've got sort of that beating heart, that emotionally driven, meaningful story that ends, with people wanting to think and do more with it. I don't want my book to be the end of discovery. I want it to be the gateway.
Sarah, don't you think that there's some psychology in this, right? If you could track my life back, now I had to be older and have some books under my belt to really realize this. You could reverse engineer my own psychology through the books that I've written, the books that I'm attracted to. I'm in every single book, fiction and nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
I do write fiction, even though they haven't made it on the shelves yet. Yeah, you can learn everything you need to know about me and where I come from through the choice of subjects that I write about.
Well, I think writing is slow therapy.
Yeah.
Slow, expensive therapy. It would be better to go to a therapist and get it out there, much cheaper. It took a long time for me to get there as well. But that's why I think about, I have this theory about discovering theme and playing with theme when you're not sure why you're there. And this might be more applicable to novels versus the picture book, but maybe not. That I think about 3 different kinds of backstory that help me to play with theme. And one is sort of the moment when I found that idea. What was I thinking about? What was important? What was going on in the world that this idea came to me? I really love what Elizabeth Gilbert says about ideas and how they float in the air. And so when the idea finds me, I journal a lot about where I am right now and who I am and why I want to think about this. And then there's my own backstory, like yours. We have signposts, as Melanie Crowder would call them, of stories we like to tell about ourselves. And those stories have themes. And I tap into those stories to figure out, why am I so obsessed with this? And then there's the character's backstory. And that character, as I get to know them, their backstory and their history will reveal new themes to me that then recharge the writing experience.
I'm really loving this. This is like, you talk about like writing is really life condensed. And some of these themes that we're talking about right now are the same exact things. Worded differently, and it's kind of on a different format, scale, whatever, but applying it to our lives, like this course that I'm teaching right now, or facilitating, I should say, because it's very interactive, but is just that thing of, like your personal vision is like the theme then for your life. And we are discovering, because so many of the people are writers in this course, that they are finding that the theme actually for their lives often is reflected in their own writing. And that's kind of a cool discovery, and how the creative process fits into all of that. And it's just, I love this topic. So thank you for being here.
It makes me worry just a little bit about Stephen King. Just saying.
That's the thing.
I don't know. I just finished drafting a murder mystery, but really it's about women who towards the end of their lives and looking and saying, this is my last chance to do something important. And that's what the book is really about. And it didn't dawn on me. I mean, I was having fun with murder, I'll be honest, but and making kugel. My character makes a lot of kugel. But it wasn't until about the third draft when someone said, why is Mrs. Rosenberg so determined to solve this murder? And it was because this is what she's wanted to be her whole life, because she has regrets, because life took turns. And finally, she's in a position to do something. And at the same time, she feels invisible, because aren't we all becoming more invisible as we age? And we need to reverse that and change how we do things like that. So it was really sort of, it is a fluid and exciting idea to think about the why.
Are either of you willing to share what your recurring personal themes are? I think we all have them, right? The thing that we keep addressing over and over in all of our books. Mine is underdog stories. I think I have always felt like an underdog, and I want to rise above that and succeed and do things that people never expected I was able to do. And so that's kind of my theme, is finding people or writing about characters who've been counted out and have found their voice and found their power, and are not afraid to grab onto that. And so I think that's the theme that I keep seeing in my work, and I don't even know it when I start a new project, but at the end I'm like, oh look, there it was again.
There it is. Yeah.
So that is definitely mine. Do either of you have one that you're willing to share publicly and out yourself?
Mine is also underdog stories. Every single one of them.
It's really common for women.
And it's interesting that as I change, my tastes even change. And I think, as I love Sarah's earlier use of the word discovery, because writing is also about discovering ourselves. So as I get older, if y'all have read Melissa Stewart's great anthology, Nonfiction Writers Dig Deep. So I have an essay in there which talks about a very personal connection between me and Abraham Lincoln's Dueling Words that I didn't know about until the book was almost finished. And I had a revelation about what the book actually was. That it was a book, it was an apology. I didn't know that. Now, would I have had that revelation 10 years earlier? No. I'm a different person today. I'm a different writer today. So my inner themes that I gravitate toward organically, they change over time.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that even in the projects that I'm taking on now. They're very, they've got some things in common, but they're also quite different than the books that you'll pick up from the shelf today.
Yeah.
But underdog stories.
Yeah, I would say I like writing reluctant hero stories. I mean, I'm always writing. I think we're always writing about the 3 F's: friendship, family, forgiveness. I think those 3 things become pillars that becomes where I begin to play with purpose. But I really like thinking about something that I learned when I was studying with facing history and ourselves, that sometimes heroes are often just regular people, but regular people are often heroes. And how we look at heroism and who steps up is something that I think that I've looked at in a lot of my books.
I want that on a bumper sticker.
Yeah. Yes. That I can put right above my desk.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I remember, I used to, one of my old jobs was one of the most didactic jobs on the planet, which is religious school principal. And so really, you don't get more didactic than that. And I would often do a hero program with my kids and say to the whole school, write me an essay about your hero. And so often it was, Michael Jordan or somebody famous. And the essays that I really was looking for were my mom, my sister, this kid I know with a disability. And those are the places where I go. I think many of us go for story, is that person who's just outside the circle. And again, thinking about our own backstories, I was that kid. I was the Jewish kid in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, with a name that started with S and not J, which was really hard. And that made me a person who was observing. Instead, I was not the head cheerleader or the smartest girl or the person who had who got all A's. I was the person who was struggling on the outside and used humor to cover that up. So that is, a lot of my books often tap into those feelings as well, as I think we all do that. I think that's one of the reasons we're all here and we're all friends.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. And I think those are the kids who need our work, right? Those are the kids who need our books. So that's a theme we keep coming back to, is how important books can be to young people. I know they were to me. I think we all have those stories of how books saved us at one point or another. And yeah, that kids need to see us on the page, because that's them so often.
And that is our why for doing KidLit Catalyst, what Laurie just said,
Absolutely.
because of what books do, and that we need to support the people who are creating them. And, that whole thing about theme, isn't it interesting that sometimes we have to wait till we're, like these ages before we can even see where that theme is really coming from? Like, we didn't create it and put it in there. It was just organic because it's part of who we are, and it shows up right there on the page. And and I tend to think my themes are things like belonging, and also helping people become who they want to be. And sometimes you have to figure out what you're not before you can figure out who you are.
And I think our themes show up in our work because they're part of our journey. So even the exploration to create the book and the way we shape it in different directions. I was just saying, I'm finishing a book and it's felt like a huge chunk of marble, and I have to keep digging and digging to get the piece that is most elemental to what it is, the why of this book. And just the chiseling becomes part of our process of healing, of understanding, of looking at things in a new way. And I think that for me, KidLit Catalyst is also about that, about it's okay to do the journey. That's a piece of it. And you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right every chisel. You just enjoy the journey, as well as lean into what happens in the process. It is life-changing for the reader if we really are authentic. For me, I remember staying up late with a flashlight that had a crank handle to keep it going so it wouldn't need batteries. And I'd crank it like 2.5 cranks per page and read under the blankets well into night, a whole stack from the library each night. And honestly and truly, both fiction and nonfiction, and those books were something I counted on to feel there was possibility for other ways to exist, possibilities for stronger futures. And we're building possibilities. And I'd say that would be my theme in the work that I do. It's the wonder of what's in front of us, all the possibilities we all hold.
That's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
And when Donna was talking a moment ago, I thought of you, Celeste, and just how you do make the best out of everything. And I always think of you with that, the making lemonade, when life gives you lemons.
We should have that professional lemonade maker.
There you go. There you go.
Hashtag.
So Celeste, talking about that and how important kids' books can be, sometimes I feel that too much. Like, I have to deliver something important. I have to have something life-changing and meaningful and something that's going to save the world, right? No pressure. Like, okay, today I'm going to write something important. Um, Sarah and Donna, how do you avoid the overwhelm of having this weighty theme in mind and this important thing that you want to say, and how do you balance that with play and creativity and exploration and that discovery when you know what you're trying to do and it's big and important?
Sarah, you want to go first?
Anyone?
Give me a chance to think.
All right, I'm going to say that I used to be hampered down to near paralysis until about 2014 by the important books I was going to write and contribute to young adult literature. And I had these big goals. And then I got a bunch of big no thank yous. And when Sarah Davies, my agent, called me to tell me to put away that very important, life-changing book, I gave myself a challenge to spend 6 months writing all the things I didn't think I'd be good at, and all the things that I just wanted to write that would make me happy. And of course, in my notebook was like a message from Deborah Brody, my first editor, who reminded me to write what makes you happy. That was her best advice. It stays with me. I miss her. I need to hear that over and over again. So when I did that challenge, out of that challenge came the wish list books. Out of that challenge came Rube. Out of that challenge came a bunch of other things that are terrible. But so what? I don't care. I was writing again, and I was enjoying myself, and I had confidence again. And when I have confidence, I am more honest. And when I have confidence, I'm less afraid of that important work. And to be honest, sometimes I give myself a little MFA-ectomy because the toolbox of the MFA, it can be a burden. And I just sit down and I made myself happy. I called the wish list my peach sorbet because I worked on it every night for me with no real worries about publishing. And that's where I think that the fear really invades our lives, is that publishing is out of our control. Our emotions are what we can tap into. What makes us happy? Play, exploration, discovery, all those words are positive words. And so now my hashtag is power of play. And that I always go about it now, just pushing aside those responsibilities. That's something somebody else can worry about. And write and talk to kids who also might not want always a squirmy book, but might want a book that makes them laugh. Right. Go for it, Donna.
Boy, that's
love
an
that.
easy one to follow.
I love that.
So I'll play sort of devil's advocate to Sarah's very wise words right there. First of all, I'll sort of answer the question in a not straightforward way. I'm always struggling with, of course, giving every book my best work. And I'm a perfectionist, which is not a good thing. Not a good thing. So it takes me longer to write a book because it has to be perfect. Nothing's perfect. It's a very difficult habit to break. And it takes some of the joy out of the writing. I love having written. The process itself can be a little excruciating because it's never as perfect as I want it to be. When we start talking, though, about the pressure we put on our work, this gets a little serious. I remember years ago when my agent said, you've got to take the pressure. You can't expect your writing to pay your rent, pay the mortgage. Don't lean on the writing on these books for kids and to make your living. It's not going to happen, which was heartbreaking. But here I am trying really hard to make a living as a full-time writer with the peripheral jobs that come with that, school visits, which I love so much, and speaking and teaching, all of that has to happen to make a living. It does put that added pressure on the books. It's got to be the right books. I've only got so many years of my life left. It takes a long time to write the kind of books that I'm writing, so I have to choose very carefully. That's a lot of pressure. I really just want to have some fun telling true stories and made up stories, and except that I do feel that pressure. So Sarah, how do you juggle that? How do you juggle that desire, that need to choose the right project and removing some perfectionist qualities from that to just make it a good read?
So, I mean, I'm a reformed perfectionist. I don't know if I'm a perfectionist. There's always a typo. I think that my newsletter was a really good way to help me get over myself. Was that I do a process newsletter every single Monday, and I've been doing it for since August 2012, when I moved to Evanston, Illinois. And my rule is I spend 15 minutes on it, and I don't proofread it. So whatever happens. There's always a typo. Sometimes I stop writing in the middle of a sentence. I forget, and I send it out, and it begins a conversation. My words are the starting point, and the conversation is what I'm looking for. So perfection is less important for me in that way. I think that the hardest thing for me is drafting. And so I draft, I credit my friend Kelly Carter Crocker for telling me this. I draft for a C-. So if I can get a C, when I was in physical therapy school, C equaled PT. So C- equals finished draft. I can make it better later. When I think about other things that I like to do, like yoga, there's that standing bow pose. And, you reach up, and then you grab your leg, and then you reach forward. And then the yoga instructor says, if you kick hard enough, you can stand there forever. And that's when I fall out every time. But if I reach further, if you take that metaphor to writing, if you reach further, you're getting something that you wouldn't have gotten if you'd stayed safe and not risked falling. So I think that how I deal with the pressure is that I fall, and then I get back up, and I don't care if the book sells as much as I maybe should. And I teach more. I like having a day job too, so that I don't have to worry about the money. But when I'm not enjoying it, I see that in my writing. I see the downturn. I recently got a Peloton, and the Peloton instructors are very zen for the writing world. And they keep telling me, on their little screen, and they're so beautiful and everything, don't get out of the class. If this feels hard, don't worry. And I think about that as well for writing, is in that place where we're having a hard time, where you're doubting yourself. We all doubt ourselves. We all need to put our internal editors in fancy china with tight lids that so they can't yell at us. That if we stay with it, what feels effortful eventually feels easier. And so deal with the effort, like use the Pomodoro technique, whatever you have to do to get those C- words down, because then your perfectionist self is welcome, because editing is a different kind of thinking.
Yes. I love that final polish stage. Ooh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love that stage.
I am complete agreement. Drafting is the hardest part of the process for me, and I really do have to think like, ooh, but if I draft, then I get to revise, right? Like that's the reward. That's the treat at the end of this pain is, okay, well, I won't get to revise unless I draft first. So here we go, you know.
And it'll never sell until I draft first.
First.
Right.
Right.
Linda Berry writes a lot about that portal to creativity, like getting out of your real life and getting into your creative life. And she suggests making like a swirly, like a really tight
her
swirly,
spiral.
the
Yeah.
spiral. And I call that the portal to creativity. And so sometimes I just make squares too. But like that swirly, by the time I'm done making it, I know what I want to write about. And that, and usually what that's just about is getting off of Twitter. Just
Right.
that's really the nemesis. Get off Twitter.
Yeah.
No one's going to give you a good idea on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's
same.
switching. It's switching to another place in your brain. I
That's
mean, it's
right.
just like, sometimes if I'm stuck in my writing, I can just like sit, close my eyes. I mean, like just seconds, and then I'll know where to go. But it's like, you have to do that. And perfectionism is fear. And so, if you're can figure out what the fear is about. And I loved, what did you just say? You mentioned it as that self, like that part of you, which is true, because if you give yourself that label, like I'm a perfectionist, it's actually not true. There's just, that's one part of you. And so then you just need to switch into a different part.
What's interesting is I think there's a correlation between perfectionism, and Laurie and I both have this natural attraction to underdog stories, right? I've probably all my life felt like an underdog. So that perfection, it's probably connected, right? I never want to be
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
this is a
Yeah.
therapy session right here, y'all.
Yes.
That's right.
That's the whole
Right.
goal.
And for me, that's
I'm
the
sure
same
we're
thing.
not the only ones, Donna. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's not just us.
Absolutely.
But I also think that it's related to like how I said belonging, because it's that thing of not fitting in,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that kind of a thing. And Celeste, when they were talking about underdog stories, I flash back to your amazing, like research and talking about so many times about all the people who like started with nothing and who really rose in what they were doing and became these really successful people in spite of all these odds. And she had, she did a ton of research on people like that. And it was, yeah.
Or that something that looked like a dead end for them, the end tragedy turned out to be the launching pad for a powerful advancement in their career or in technology or in a more positive future for themselves. It's just amazing to watch. I love that. And again, that's about possibility, right? That's my
Those
thing.
were, yeah.
There's so much possibility.
Underdog stories for adults.
So if you were writing those stories as narratives, the theme is tied directly to that, who they were, what they had to overcome. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is so your life, Celeste, and what you have done around the world with Days for Girls.
Oh, thank you. I think you're right that there's a thread that runs through, and we don't have to worry about conveying our theme. It's going to pop up. We don't have to worry about will it come through, because as you've all so beautifully portrayed, it's going to pop up. And I did want to tag in and say, for those of you that don't know what Pomodoro is, that's a wonderful technique that you just set a timer, do something. Pomodoro, thank you. And do something for 25 minutes. And then stop, go stretch, go do something else. And it makes that time really more productive and powerful.
No social media in your 10 minutes. Ooh, you have a sands of time.
I have an hour. Yeah. So this
Nice.
made it just a little bit more fun than setting a timer. And it's so visual. So anyway, whatever tool helps.
Yeah. We need to find all these tricks for ourselves, right? To keep going sometimes. Yeah.
Right.
Wow, you two. This has been amazing.
So powerful.
I can envision myself going back and rewatching this like quarterly, just just to put it back in my brain.
Do you know, as a writer and then also as a teacher, when I'm teaching it, every time I read, all of my books have Post-it notes all over them, and some of them have they're highlighted all over. I always put a Post-it note at the character's motivation, and then the call to action. You can reverse engineer a narrative to find out what the theme is, beginning with motivation and backstory and go forward. That's always a trick, and to train yourself to identify theme and to start organically working it into your own manuscripts. Did you want to address through line really quickly? I hope we do, because it's been a little bit of
Yes, please.
a burr under my saddle.
Yeah.
Do it,
Yeah.
girl.
Okay, let me jumpstart this. So I've heard private students and critique clients, different people mentioning through line, and I'll be honest, I'd never heard of the term used in children's books in any literature environment. So I did some research into this, and the term through line has its roots in screenwriting, right? And the whole idea of the spine. So then the first use was in the beginning of the 1900s, between 1900 and 1925 or something like that. And then it had a resurgence in 1991 with playwriters, and they were using through line to describe really any thread that goes through a narrative that has a beginning, middle, and end. That means the character arc and plot points. So often people will try to define through line today as either the theme, which is tied to character, or the focused narrative, like don't get off the path. If you're sending your character from point A to Z, don't go off into 1 and 4, right? So nobody is clear. You're not going to find a definition for through line in a dictionary, or even I have a book of rhetorical and literary devices. This is MFA. It's not there because it's not a book term. It's a screenwriting term. So I can't even give you a good definition, except that I think those two things are connected. I think in my mind, when I see the term through line and I'm hearing what I'm thinking is through line is your character's journey, point A to point Z, and the steps. It's the combination of the character and the plot points that get them there. It's that all of it combined is the single through line. And screenwriting, each subplot has its own through line. So can we just agree that it's not an official term, although maybe it's becoming one now? I don't know where it started
Yeah.
with books.
I think you're totally right, Donna, that it means something slightly different to everybody.
It does.
And even in different situations, I think kind of we instinctively think of it a little bit differently. That's so interesting, though, that it comes from the screenwriting and playwriting world.
I reached out to some
which
colleagues.
Is all story, right? I mean,
It is
story.
Yeah.
So it's still relevant to what we do.
Right.
I always thought of it as more kind of making sure that the periphery elements that we're using in our story tie into and support the main elements, the character arc or the plot arc. Like, don't, I guess a little bit like Chekhov's gun, right? Don't put a gun there unless you're going to use it. If you're going to use something in a scene, make sure it's in some way like symbolic or representative or has something to do with what's going on, rather than, oh, there was just this random thing there. That's what I think of it as, is kind of making sure that everything is there for a reason and is connected.
Maybe like a
and especially
line.
with picture books where you have so few words and you have to be so
Right.
careful. Like that through line is, does this contribute to my story? If not, gone, right?
Okay,
or if not, find a way to make it contribute to the story.
To complete that thought, are you talking about the plot, the internal arc with the character, or the external plot?
I think either, both. It's got to be there for a reason.
Even my agent
through line means to me.
Even my agent has never used the term. And I reached out to several colleagues and said, have you ever used the term through line? What's your understanding of the definition of through line? And no one can define it. They all said, well, I assume it has something to do with the theme. So this is why it's confusing to everybody. Just for everybody listening.
And this is why one of the reasons why I asked you the question and asked us to be able to discuss this, because my agent has said to me several times, can you beef up the through line? Can you enhance the through line just a little bit more? And I'm like, what does that mean? And so, I've tried to come up with my own interpretation of what that means. I should just ask her. But
Yeah,
Never
Maybe-
watch
we
this.
should ask.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
related to what the reader is anticipating and the logic of that combination of character journey and action, character emotion and action. I don't know. Too much thinking.
There seems to be different layers of the use. I think you're right, Sarah. It's individually, it's the character and it's the plot and it's all of it together.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
And really, is the through line conceived when at the end, when you find that inevitable, surprising ending, and then you can go back and say, well, where did this start? And then you can look and say, okay, am I reacting to the actions? Are the characters reacting to what's going on? Is the narrative reacting to pushing forward? Is each page moving forward? Are the plot turns working?
And then there's that whole thing, the cause, effect,
Right.
cause, effect, and what fits in and what doesn't fit in. So
There's that Annie Dillard line about spending your, like, to not hold back. And that to me that's the guide, is that is to not pace myself for a later reveal. If I know something about the character, I put it on the page and then I see how the characters will react.
Love that.
It's a really nice long quote, which I should know by now by heart, but I don't. I think that there's, the one thing that I have kept going back to this last 14 months is like, if not now, when? What are the things that are important to you? Put them on the page, write about them, get messy with them, because we have just survived a pandemic.
Yeah.
And
We can
and
do anything, y'all.
We can do anything. And story has saved us in so many ways. And so that we should all, like, what are we holding back? What do we think what do we think we're holding in? We should be letting it out right now, because we have done something extraordinary, and the world needs us to be funny, sad, exciting, truthful, everything.
Yeah. To be authentic, right? To be human.
I wanted to say just a couple things. One was,
Please.
I was so thrilled that someone did a book on Rube Goldberg, and I'm gonna get one for my husband, because we both talked about how, about hearing about him when we were kids and about it being like in this reading series, and I couldn't believe that no one had done a book on him. That's just amazing.
I was hyperventilating when I realized that no one had done it. I had never written a nonfiction before, even tried. And when I realized that no one had done it, I mean, my heart was pounding. Serendipity it all worked out. So happy.
You haven't had the
Yeah.
joy of being scooped yet.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have many
Really.
times, including yesterday.
Oh no, Donna.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
7 years on a project.
Oh,
And
who's the
someone else.
subject? Who's the subject?
I can't say yet because we haven't
Okay.
decided if it's dead or not. If my book is
Wow.
dead. 7 years.
Well, and
But
Donna, one thing
so then you find a way, like the Lincoln book. Oh my God. You know what? I had read that book a while ago, and then I was familiar with your name, but it didn't click that that's who we were going to be talking to until Laurie and I were talking. It's like, it's like that book.
I was like, have
is
you
so
seen her Lincoln
amazing.
book?
I mean,
Oh, thank you.
having been a teacher, I mean, of course, I've seen a lot of Lincoln books and a lot of information on Lincoln, but here is this book. I have never seen this in a nonfiction book where the narrator is such a clear voice telling the story in their voice, not anything to do with, the characters in the book or anything, but just it's that separate narrator voice
That's
that,
what sold the manuscript,
and
the voice.
well, yeah.
But yeah, it's a study in voice. My
Yeah,
goodness.
that was
Yes.
Thank
so
you.
amazing, so unique, and I was just blown away because, I read, I check out huge piles of picture books every week. I stay on top of all that. I think it had some. I also had, been a school librarian at one point. So
Well, and Donna, you completely recovered King of the Tightrope by redirecting it, right?
Oh my gosh, I got scooped
so
on that one.
you have done it
Yeah.
before.
What
I've
a,
done it
Let's
before. Oof.
figure.
I
You
can't
know,
even
if you just
imagine.
want to brainstorm, we're here for you.
Yeah. If only we could sell these books on proposal. I would have saved 7 years of my life. Yeah.
I would love to do brainstorming. I would love to
I
get a
love
group of,
that.
I would love to get a group of women together and do some brainstorming on some ideas. That would be just throw stuff out, ask questions. That would be amazing.
Sign
Oh
me
my
up.
I
goodness.
have always
That
wanted
would
to
be.
do I have wanted to do a retreat where we grab our, I mean, I think I probably have 70 picture book manuscripts that'll never go anywhere, but that like you could put them out there and people would say, "Okay, well, well, but look at this paragraph. You've got a whole book in this paragraph. Throw out the rest." Or, why don't you take this one and combine it with that one? Just those kinds of things. Or toss that, people who you can say that to and who would be fine with it. Sort of
Well,
Great
I
thing.
think
idea.
Donna's probably seen it too, where at our agency retreats, they would have plot brainstorming circles where people would
Oh yeah.
come and like, okay, I'm this far into my novel. This is what's happened. This is where I'm trying to get to. Like, I'm stuck
Yeah.
in the messy middle. What do I do? And there'd be this circle of authors that would just like, well, have you thought about maybe what if,
Yes.
And by the end, everybody's like solved their plot problems. It's
That's
Yeah.
like
so
amazing.
powerful, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And they've done
We
that
did,
at Kindling Words.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Lots
did
of
that
fun.
we did that for my triple C's class, career, community, craft. And people,
Wait, those are different C's.
I
Oh
know
yeah.
they're
There's
different
so
C's.
many C's.
There's so
C's,
many C's and I's. It's really ridiculous
unbelievable.
that
All the best words.
but that everybody had to read their first page, then stop, and then you could tell us what you were grappling with as quickly as possible. And then we just started asking questions, and everything had to be in the form of a question. So
Wow,
no,
that's powerful.
and at first nobody said anything because they were afraid to ask. And
Mhm.
then by the third person, we started generating these questions that the writer was like, wait, stop, stop, stop. I got to write something down. Oh, I just had an epiphany.
Yeah.
And that centering the author versus, oh, I like this. Oh, I like that, kept
Yeah.
it so dynamic
Yeah.
and exciting. And you could see the person really thinking. It was great. It was
Well,
great.
yeah, it has to be questions. For me, and even like watching the people at Kindling Words, do throwing out all these ideas, and then people say, well, no, that's not going to work because, and then da 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 da. But if you ask a question, it's just like when an editor gives you a little nudge on something, and you know where they're leading, and you know what they want there, but you find another way to do it. And so if it's a question, it triggers something in the writer so that they can find their own solution, because that's where it has to come
That's
from.
where it happens. And 9 times out of 10, there's a glimmer in the manuscript that's already telling the writer to go there. The subconscious is already hard at work saying, hello, hello,
Yeah.
this is what your book is about. Talk to
Yeah.
me, people.
But we don't always see it.
But
No.
Yep. Yep. Or we're afraid of it.
We're afraid of it, or we're writing for a C-, or we're being a perfectionist. And then that question zooms in on that glimmer, and then this happens all the time. And then they say, oh yeah, that's what I was writing about to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or now I know why I had her pick up the mail that morning. It was
Right.
because,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never did
And then
anything with
you
that.
can't not see it, right? Then it's like, oh, right.
The creative
Yeah.
process is amazing to me. It's
It
fascinating.
it
It
is
is.
Doesn't it
endlessly.
feel like
Yeah.
it's unlocking something that's already in there?
Yep.
And it's like, I always say there's this trickster inside me, and it's like, and then it can come out and it's like, oh, you did it again.
Yeah. 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 So fun.
Oh,
Mm,
You all can call me anytime you want to brainstorm.
yeah, yeah,
I can ask questions. I
add my
would
number.
love that. Yeah.
Brainstorm
Yep.
buddies.
For sure. Look me up. You've got my
I love
email.
maybe we need to set up a retreat.
Oh, yes, can we?
This has
You know,
been so fun, y'all.
I was at
Ladies.
another retreat where they had us role play our characters, and
Oh
then
yeah.
a partner interviewed us as our character. That was really useful too. It was
Huh.
fun.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah. If you want
I-
stuff like that, you should interview Crystal Allen.
Crystal
I love
Allen.
Crystal Allen. I just adore her.
Just
Yeah.
Oh,
you're
put her
gonna
on our list, Deb.
she'll
on our
you'll
list.
spit
She is on our list.
you'll
Okay.
spit your tea because she's
Yes.
so funny. But
She is
she is
hilarious.
but she does a lot of that kind of work and
Yes.
at the whole novel, and it's amazing to see what people come up with when they're just invited, when they invite a little bit of inspiration to the party.
Yep. We've actually been communicating back and forth on a few other things
Oh,
lately.
good. I am thrilled to hear, Sarah, that you tackled nonfiction for the first time ever, because I am embarking on a novel for the first time ever, and I am scared to death. But it's also very exciting and freeing because you know what? I don't have to be good at writing novels because that's not what I do.
I think that is
So
my sparkle.
I
That's
am finding it actually really fun.
I
When-
am too, Lori.
Oh, good. Oh,
is no
Donna, we can talk.
expectations. All these people who are nobody expects anything from me anymore because I flip flop all over the place. But the first time I tried to write something that nobody was expecting from me, that was when I just felt like all the teachers, all the books, all the editors, agents were all off my shoulder. And it was so freeing to just say, I can be
Yes.
bad at this. Nobody
Uh-huh.
cares. Nobody
Right,
cares.
exactly. Yep.
No
Yeah.
one's waiting for an adult novel mystery with
Yeah.
old people, old Jewish ladies. So let's
That was
write
really
it.
hard for me, and Laurie and I, and well, Celeste too. We've all talked about, just that thing. Sometimes, I mean, I was such an overachiever. And so to get past that thing and now doing creativity coaching, I intentionally find ways to be in that vulnerable place. Like,
Yep.
taking classes in something I know I'm not going to be good at, just to be there with people who are good at it and know that I don't have to try to be the best.
It's a good way to put that perfectionist in the back seat, right? Like,
Yes.
don't even try because this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
Right. And when your perfectionist self rears its ugly head, put on big magic, take a walk, and Liz, my best friend who doesn't know me, will tell you to put fear in the back seat. He's always there, but he doesn't get to drive the car. And I
Exactly.
love that idea.
I have
I do
read
too.
and listened to that audiobook so many times.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
I love that image of, yep, you can get in the back seat, you can come along for the ride, but you're not allowed
Right.
to drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. But
It is.
it is good advice.
Yes. Yeah. What an inspiring
Oh,
conversation.
thank you.
This has been fun.
This is
I could-
really fun. Donna, we
I
have
could
to do
keep
more
on-
stuff together.
Please, let's do.
Let's
Yeah.
I would love
put our
it.
heads together.
We can
We'd
just make
love it.
this an every week occurrence if you'd like.
There you go.
Synchronize our calendars.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So we'll
Awesome.
let you know about the broadcast and when that date will be and more things about that. We'll share with you the bios we'll be sharing as we post your episode. And if there's anything you want to add to what you sent us, just please update us. And if you have someone else you recommend that we should have on the show, you let us know. I don't know how we're going to top this, so good luck with that. But
Aw,
do
this
this
was
and
So
fun.
much
this and
fun.
that.
How many episodes have y'all recorded? Y'all, Texan, sorry, y'all.
How many of you guys done?
You guys.
I
Is
think
this
we
our
recorded
fourth or
3
fifth?
so far. So this would be our 4th, I think.
That's great.
I think. Yeah.
Nice.
It's
Thanks so much for
interesting.
being our guinea pigs.
Okay.
Oh, it's been
and
fun.
it's-
So fun.
Great to see you all.
Bye.